Today we're going to be getting ready for the Unit 5 test. So we're going to review everything we've talked about in regards to decimals and using algorithms to solve problems. Okay, in today's PowerPoint, we're going to go through guided examples, and then you'll be doing your student problems. Okay, and if you complete this entire study guide, this is going to count towards extra credit for your test. Okay, so the first one we're doing here is a word problem. So we want to be trying to identify keywords or phrases to help me decide what operation to use. Okay, Bella has 45 3/10 pounds of slime. If she gives away 8 55 pounds, how much does she have left? Okay, so gives away would help me decide that this will be a subtraction problem. Okay, remember when we're adding or subtracting, we're going to make sure that we're lining up our decimal point. Okay, so one on top of the other. So I'll take the first number, 45 3/10. And before I put in my second number, I'm reminding myself to keep the decimal places lined up. Okay, so that the numbers that are on top of each other are matching place value. So underneath the 5 will be the 8, because both of those are in the ones place. And then, again, keeping one number on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and just fill in any of my empty spaces here with zeros. Okay, so we add in 0 placeholders when we're adding and subtracting. Starting on the right-hand side, I'm going to try to take 3 away from 0. Which I can't do, so I'm going to need to regroup. Okay, regrouping means I'm going to go to the next place value. I cross off that 3. That becomes 2. So that this place value can become 1 more, so 10. 10 take away 3 would be 7. Okay, when I move to the next one and I'm trying to take 3 away from 2, I'm going to regroup again. So crossing off the 5, this becomes 4, allowing me to regroup, and this would become 12. 12 take away 3 is 9. And when I move to the next place value, I'm regrouping again. I can't take 8 away from 4. Cross this off, it becomes 3. So that this is 14. 14 take away 8. Is 6. 3 take away 0. When you add and subtract, we make sure we line it up, and then all we have to do is drop it down in our answer. And let's make sure we're including a label for this one. It's a word problem. Okay, so for any question where you're adding or subtracting, you're going to make sure to keep your decimal points lined up. Next question, I'm also going to be reading through and trying to figure out what operation I'm using. Okay, so Bolton is buying packages of Girl Scout cookies. Each box costs $4.35 with tax. How much will he spend on 17 boxes? Okay, so the word each, I'm going to underline. And depending on how the question is phrased, if I'm seeing each, okay, that can mean that I'm doing multiplication or division. Okay, each indicates how much for one. So in this question, I'm telling you one box costs this much, and we're going to use that to figure out how much 17 cost. Okay, so in this problem, we're going to be multiplying because we're finding the total cost. Okay, when we go to multiply, I'm going to ignore the decimal. And when I set this up one on top of the other, I'm actually going to write it without the decimals at all. Okay. In this unit, we're practicing using the standard algorithm for multiplication, which means, again, we're not using the boxes or setting it up in another model. Okay. In the standard algorithm, I put one number on top of the other like this. I start with the ones place value, and I'm going to multiply everything up top by that. So I start with 7 times 5, which will be 35. Okay, just like adding and subtracting, we only want to put one digit down. So I'm putting down the 5 and carrying the 3. Okay, I'm going to deal with that 3 that I carried after I multiply. So I'm doing 7 times 3 now, which is 21, plus 3 more would be 24. Again, I put down the 4, and I'm carrying 2 to the next number. 7 is still what I'm multiplying by. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 more would be 30. Because I have no numbers to the left, I'm going to put down both digits. I'm going to switch my color to help organize my thinking. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to multiplying by the 1 now. Okay, because I've already multiplied the 4, the 3, and the 5 by that 7. Right now this 1 is in the tens place. So what we're really about to do is 10 times 435. Okay, so when I'm on my second digit, I'm going to put a 0 placeholder in the ones place, again, because I'm really multiplying by the tens. Then, just like I did with the 7, I take the 1, start by multiplying it by 5. 1 times 5, 1 times 3, and 1 times 4. Okay, I've now multiplied the 4, the 3, and the 5 by that 1. I can cross that out. Okay, then I add these up. At the end, I'm going to go back and look at the original problem. And in the original problem, I'm going to count how many decimal places I have. So in the first number, I have 1, 2 decimal places. And there are no decimal places in 17. So I'm going to move my decimal once, twice there. So that my answer, okay, we're talking money here, $73.95. All right, next question. Layla has 28 days to read her ELA book. That is 378 pages. How much should she reach each day? Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how many pages per day, and per would mean that I am dividing. So I'm going to take the 378 pages and split that into 28 days. Okay, and remember when we use double-digit division, it's helpful to list out my multiples to start. Okay, so when I say that, I mean what is 28 times 1? Okay, and you can use a calculator on this step, and you're just listing out what those are. So 28 times 2 would be next. 28 times 3. Okay, having this list is going to help guide you through the question and knowing what your number of groups will be. Okay, so it might even be helpful to say how many groups that is. So that was 5. For right now, I'm going to end my list with 28 times 7. Okay, but you would want to continue all the way up to 9. Okay, so 28 can go into 3, no times. 28 can go into 37. I look at my list, I can only make one group because to have 2, I would need 56. Right, subtracting here, I end up with 9. Bring down the 8. And so when I do 28, how many groups of 28 can I make from this 98? I look at my list, the closest number I see is 84. So that represents 3 groups, subtracting 84. Okay, at this point I have a remainder, and I want to get rid of that remainder. To do that, I'm going to add my decimal point on the inside number, and after a decimal point I can add a 0. Okay, the decimal point will come right up in my answer. Okay, I drop this 0 down. So now I have 140 being divided into groups of 28. Looking at my list, I get to 5. And for that, it works out perfectly. So I have my final answer is what number I have up top. So I would put 13.5. Again, this is a word problem, so that's pages. And I'll circle that so you know it's my answer. All right, let's see one more here where I'm dividing with a decimal. Okay, when we're dividing with a decimal, we're going to follow the same algorithm and steps. I'm going to set the problem up in the same way, but before I do that, I'm looking at where the decimals are in the problem. Okay, it would be okay for us to have a decimal in the first number, but if we have a decimal in the second number, we need to move the decimal point over and turn this into a whole number. I shift that once, twice, so that that becomes 18. And then if I shift it on this number, I move it in the second number as well. Okay, I have to move it the same number of times. And so if I move it first from here to here, one more time, I'm going to fill this in with a 0. So this is 5,460 divided by 18. Okay, again, before I try to divide, just following those basic steps, I'm listing out my multiples. So 18 times 1, 18 times 2, 18 times 3. Again, you can use a calculator at this point. So 18 times 4 is 72. 18 times 5 is 90. 18 times 6 is 108. 18 times 7, 126. 18 times 8, 144. And I can stop my list at 18 times 9. All right, let's go ahead and try to divide. Okay, so 18 can't be, or 5 can't be divided by 18. And so now I have 54. 54 divided by 18. I look over here, 54 represents 3 groups exactly. Okay, so when I bring down this 6, and I try to take 6 and divide it by 18, I can't do that. Okay, so really important when you're dividing that we keep one number on top, so don't forget that 0 placeholder. Then you can go ahead and just bring down the next number, and 18 can go into 60, again 3 times. 54 is the closest number to 60. Subtracting 54. Okay, once I have a remainder, remember we can add a decimal point, add a 0, and again 18 can go into 60 3 times. All right, we have a remainder still. We can add another 0. And again, it will go in 3 times again. When you're dividing, I only need you to go 2 decimal places, so to the 100th place. Okay, we don't want to continue dividing forever. So when this happens, if there's still a remainder like we have in this problem, we're going to ignore that 6 so that my final answer is 303 33/100ths. That covers everything that you might see on the test tomorrow. Okay, if you continue working on this study guide, you should be prepared and ready to go.